The sun was setting over the quiet training yard, and Bruce Lee was stretching casually, preparing for his usual routine. His movements were fluid, precise, almost meditative. Around him, the crowd of onlookers chatted softly, unaware that something extraordinary was about to unfold. From the edge of the yard, a massive figure appeared, a 300-pound giant, towering over everyone around him. His presence alone was intimidating. Muscles rippled under his tight shirt, and his eyes scanned the crowd with a mixture of arrogance and challenge. When his gaze landed on Bruce, a loud, mocking laugh erupted. "You think you can handle me? You're way too small." The giant sneered, his voice carrying over the yard. The crowd fell silent. Whispers ran through the spectators. Is he serious? And why is Bruce even standing there? Bruce Lee didn't respond immediately. His calm demeanor seemed almost unnatural compared to the giant's aggressive energy. He merely looked at the man, eyes focused, body relaxed yet ready. The contrast was striking. One man shouting, bulging with raw muscle. The other quiet, composed, radiating confidence that didn't need to be loud. The giant took a step forward, flexing his arms. He wanted to provoke fear, to show dominance. He didn't notice how the air seemed to shift as Bruce simply adjusted his stance, small movements, almost invisible, yet deliberate. Every bystander felt it, the calm before the storm, the silent tension that told them something remarkable was about to happen. The crowd began to hold its breath. Phones were raised, recording every second, trying to capture what might become a historic moment. Bruce Lee, aware of every gaze, didn't flinch. There was no anger, no rush, only focus, a rare kind of power that didn't scream or threaten, but existed quietly in every fiber of his being. Then, with a slow but deliberate motion, Bruce shifted his weight, signaling that he was ready. The giant laughed again, louder this time, confident he had already won. But deep down, the spectators could sense the moment was no longer about size. It was about something else entirely: skill, control, and an uncheckable mind. And just as the giant prepared to make his first move, Bruce Lee's eyes locked onto his target. Everyone leaned forward instinctively, knowing that what was about to happen in the next 10 seconds would shock them forever. No one expected what Bruce would do next. And in just 10 seconds, the giant would learn a lesson he would never forget. The giant's laughter echoed through the yard, a sound that seemed to shake the very air around them. He flexed his massive arms and stepped closer to Bruce Lee, each movement deliberate, designed to intimidate. "Come on, little man," he shouted. "Let's see what you've got." The spectators gasped, some taking a step back, while others instinctively raised their phones. They knew something epic was about to unfold, something worth recording, something that would be talked about for years. Bruce Lee didn't react in anger. He simply shifted his weight, standing perfectly balanced, every muscle ready but not tense, every movement controlled and calm. The giant lunged forward, trying to close the distance in a show of raw power. The crowd collectively held its breath. You could feel the tension, like the air itself was waiting for Bruce to move. And then, almost imperceptibly, Bruce stepped to the side, letting the giant stumble slightly. It wasn't a dodge. It was a subtle invitation, a silent message that size alone wouldn't win this fight. People around them were murmuring, whispering to each other. "Is he really going to fight him?" one asked. "He's huge. Bruce can't even touch him," said another. Cameras clicked, fingers tapped record, but no one could predict what would happen next. Every eye was locked on the two figures in the center, the contrast between sheer mass and focused discipline creating an almost magnetic pull on the crowd's attention. Bruce's gaze never left the giant. His eyes were calm but piercing, like a predator assessing its opponent, not to harm, but to understand. The giant, on the other hand, grew frustrated, his confidence wavering slightly. His attacks, powerful and fast, seemed increasingly desperate, each one failing to find its mark. Bruce moved with precision, almost invisible, conserving energy, letting the giant's own momentum work against him. And just as the crowd thought they understood the situation, Bruce did something subtle yet shocking. He took a micro-step forward, timing perfectly with the giant's next lunge. In that instant, the giant overextended himself. His balance shifted, and the crowd gasped audibly. The giant had underestimated Bruce, and it was starting to show. The atmosphere was electric. Phones waved in the air as the crowd recorded every second. You could feel the tension in every whisper, every wide-eyed stare. Bruce didn't say a word. His silence was louder than the giant's roars. We want to know where you're watching this from. Comment your city and country below. Are you in New York, London, Manila, or somewhere else in the world? Let's see which corner of the globe is watching Bruce take on the impossible. Even the giant's friends and onlookers began to notice the change in energy. The once cocky, unstoppable figure was now showing cracks. His punches, once precise and terrifying, now seemed rushed, misaligned, and forced. Bruce's calm control contrasted with the giant's frantic energy, making the giant's size seem less and less threatening. By now, the crowd was leaning in closer, almost as if they were drawn magnetically to the center of the yard. The story was no longer about a giant challenging a legend, it was about discipline, focus, and skill overpowering raw brute force. Every person watching felt it in their chest, an emotional pull that made them unable to look away, and then came the pause, the split second before the next move. Everyone knew the next few seconds would decide everything. The giant, sweating, eyes widening, realized he was facing more than a man, he was facing a force of nature contained in a calm, silent body. Bruce Lee was ready. The giant thought he had the advantage. But what Bruce did next in the first move would leave everyone gasping. The giant's face twisted into a mix of anger and disbelief. He had never faced someone so calm, someone who didn't react the way he expected. Every step he took toward Bruce Lee carried the weight of his 300 pounds, meant to intimidate, meant to dominate. But Bruce remained motionless, a statue of focus and control. The crowd could feel the tension spike. Phones hovered in midair, ready to record what would become a legendary moment. People were leaning forward, almost holding their breath, as if any sudden movement could tip the balance of reality itself. The giant's confidence was palpable, yet in the silence that surrounded Bruce, a subtle unease began to creep into his mind. Then it happened. The giant lunged forward, swinging a massive arm as though to crush Bruce in a single motion. But Bruce was already there, almost everywhere at once. He didn't flinch. His body shifted with precision, almost imperceptible, just enough to redirect the giant's momentum. The punch missed its mark by inches, and the giant stumbled forward slightly. His eyes widening in shock, the crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. "Did you see that?" Someone yelled. Others froze, realizing that the smallest man in the yard had already turned the giant's strength against him without throwing a single full strike. Bruce's calm, almost meditative stance contrasted sharply with the giant's frantic aggression. Every second was magnified. Every breath seemed synchronized with the rhythm of the encounter. The giant, frustrated, tried again. This time, his legs carried him forward in a powerful charge, aiming to overpower Bruce with sheer mass. But Bruce Lee anticipated the move. With a subtle pivot, he sidestepped, letting the giant's own weight carry him past. The crowd's collective gasp was almost audible, like the air itself had been sucked from the yard. People could barely believe what they were witnessing. Every movement Bruce made seemed impossible. It wasn't raw power, he wasn't trying to hurt the giant, but the precision and timing of his actions made the giant's confidence crumble. Each failed attempt, each miscalculated swing, made the 300-pound figure look slower, heavier, and increasingly unsure. Bruce's calm energy dominated the space. The crowd could feel it radiating outward, a magnetic force that shifted attention and control entirely to the smaller man. The giant paused for a split second, trying to reassess, but Bruce didn't wait. He maintained perfect balance, every foot planted, every eye focused. The giant's friends in the crowd began whispering nervously, realizing that the man they mocked just seconds ago was now in complete control of the situation. Bruce's stillness was like a trap, mentally drawing the giant in while physically guiding every move with invisible precision. Now it's your turn. If you were standing in Bruce's shoes, would you stand your ground or step back? Type stand or walk in the comments and see how many people choose courage. The giant took another swing, heavier this time, fueled by desperation. But Bruce's eyes tracked every micro-movement. With a subtle shift, the giant's momentum was redirected again. He nearly lost his balance entirely. Whispers spread through the crowd. This is insane. How is he moving so fast? Every spectator felt their heart rate rise, mentally trapped in the impossible speed and precision of Bruce's response. Even the giant could feel it now, a creeping sense that he wasn't in control. His confidence, which had seemed unshakable seconds ago, was faltering. And the crowd could see it clearly. Size and strength weren't winning this battle. Skill, timing, and discipline were in command as the giant readied for another charge. Bruce Lee's stance shifted slightly, a tiny adjustment. Almost invisible, but it carried the weight of inevitability. Everyone watching knew the next few seconds would decide the outcome. This wasn't just a physical confrontation anymore. It was mental, emotional, and psychological, a pure test of control versus chaos. And in that instant, Bruce Lee became more than a fighter. He became a force of nature, a man whose calm mastery of skill was about to leave the giant and everyone watching completely shocked. No one saw it coming. The next move would turn those 10 seconds into a moment everyone would remember forever. The air seemed to freeze for a fraction of a second as Bruce Lee readied himself. The giant, still reeling from the previous miscalculations, tightened his stance, glaring at the smaller man with a mix of disbelief and frustration. Sweat gleamed on his massive frame, muscles tensing, as though he was trying to summon some last ounce of dominance. The crowd, sensing the next moment could be historic, leaned in closer, phones recording every second, breaths held in anticipation. Then, almost impossibly fast, Bruce Lee moved. Not with the brute force the giant expected, but with a speed so refined that it seemed to defy the eye. His footwork was precise, almost invisible, and every motion was calculated. In one fluid shift, he sidestepped, ducked, and adjusted his angle, all while keeping his eyes locked on the giant. The crowd could barely follow it. Looked like Bruce had vanished and reappeared, a ghost in the yard. The giant swung again, this time with raw power, trying to overwhelm Bruce with sheer momentum. But the strike missed entirely. The crowd gasped, whispers spreading like wildfire. Did you see that? He didn't even touch him. Phones shook as spectators tried to capture the impossible. How could someone so small move so fast against a man so enormous? Bruce didn't strike. He didn't need to. His goal wasn't to hurt the giant, but to demonstrate the complete mastery of timing and control. Every small adjustment he made redirected the giant's weight, caused him to overextend, and made him stumble. Each failed attempt by the 300-pound giant chipped away at his confidence, turning his aggression into hesitation. The crowd was entranced. Some stared, mouths open, unable to blink, fearing they might miss a single millisecond of Bruce's astonishing movements. Others whispered to each other in disbelief, words failing to capture the surreal nature of what they were witnessing. Even the giant's own friends were speechless. It wasn't just a fight, they were watching a masterclass in speed, precision, and control. And then came the subtle moment that would haunt the giant forever. Bruce shifted his weight in one perfect micro-step, a movement so small yet so precise that it completely unbalanced his opponent. The giant lurched forward, arms flailing slightly, eyes widening in panic. For the first time, he realized that size and strength alone weren't enough. His confidence, once towering, was starting to crumble. The crowd's excitement turned to awe. Whispers ran through the yard. "He's unreal. No one moves like that." Every spectator felt an invisible tug, mentally trapped in Bruce's brilliance. It was impossible not to watch, impossible not to feel the tension, impossible not to feel the thrill of witnessing a true legend in motion. Bruce's face remained calm, almost serene. There was no anger, no rush, just an unshakable focus. His movements weren't flashy or showy, yet they seemed to warp the perception of reality itself. The giant, meanwhile, was trapped in a loop of missteps, unable to predict or control what Bruce would do next. Each second felt stretched, the yard itself seeming to hold its breath along with the spectators. If you think you could even keep up with Bruce's speed, type "impossible" in the comments. And tell us your city and country. Where are you watching this insane moment unfold? Bruce's footwork continued like a rhythm no one else could hear, each step perfectly timed to the giant's movements. He wasn't attacking with force. He was attacking with control, anticipation, and mental mastery. Every micro-adjustment seemed to mock the giant's aggression, exposing how overconfidence can be a weakness. As the 10-second mark approached, the crowd realized something incredible. The fight wasn't about strength anymore. It was about precision, discipline, and intelligence. Bruce Lee's unseen speed had turned the yard into a theater, the audience into witnesses of something almost supernatural, and the giant into a man learning the hard way that power without control is meaningless. By the 10th second, the giant's confidence had vanished. And what happened next would shock everyone watching forever. The giant's face was a mix of confusion and panic. 10 seconds had passed since he had challenged Bruce Lee, and already the yard's energy had shifted. His massive frame, once a symbol of intimidation, now seemed awkward, heavy, and uncontrolled. Every movement he made was countered before it even landed. The crowd could sense that something monumental was about to happen, something no one could have predicted. Bruce Lee stood calmly, his eyes locked on the giant, analyzing every twitch of muscle, every micro-shift of weight. He didn't rush, didn't shout, didn't flinch. Yet the sheer force of his focus radiated across the yard, making it impossible for anyone to look away. Even the giant, for all his size, began to feel that magnetic pull, mentally trapped by Bruce's control. Each step he took, each swing he threw, only highlighted the precision and calm of the smaller man in front of him. The giant lunged again, more aggressively this time, hoping sheer momentum would break Bruce's composure. But Bruce anticipated it flawlessly. With a tiny pivot of his foot and a shift of his center of gravity, he redirected the force. The giant stumbled slightly, catching himself with a strained grunt. The crowd gasped collectively. Phones shook as they recorded the impossible 10 seconds into the challenge, and Bruce Lee had completely neutralized a man 3 times his size. Whispers rippled through the spectators. How is he so fast? He didn't even touch him yet. This is insane. Each onlooker felt a mix of fear, awe, and disbelief. Bruce's calm wasn't just physical, it was psychological. The giant, now slightly unsteady, realized he was being outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and psychologically trapped. All in 10 seconds. Then Bruce did something that nobody expected. He didn't strike with force, but with timing so perfect that it left the giant completely disoriented. A subtle shift of Bruce's hand, an imperceptible step, and the giant's balance completely betrayed him. For the first time, he looked vulnerable. The crowd's murmurs turned into audible gasps, their hearts racing as they watched the unthinkable unfold. The energy in the yard became electric. Every spectator felt the tension in their chest, mentally reliving the moment, unable to look away. Bruce Lee's calm mastery had turned a potentially terrifying situation into a demonstration of pure skill. The giant, massive and powerful as he was, could only flail, trying to regain control that had already slipped through his fingers. And then came the moment of truth. Bruce stepped lightly to the side, almost invisible, letting the giant's momentum carry him forward. The massive man staggered, his confidence crumbling instantly. The crowd erupted with whispers of awe, some cheering, some frozen in disbelief. Bruce Lee didn't shout, didn't gloat. He simply stood there, calm, controlled, and perfectly composed. The 10-second challenge had ended. If you've ever seen skill beat size like this, type respect in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from, city or country, so we can see who witnessed this unbelievable moment worldwide. Even the giant's friends who had been confident seconds ago now stood silently, realizing that brute strength alone couldn't dominate skill, focus, and timing. Bruce had done more than defend himself. He had completely dismantled the illusion that power alone could win by now. Everyone watching understood the lesson. Strength can intimidate, but precision, control, and mental mastery command true respect. The giant, for all his size, had learned it in 10 seconds, and so had the hundreds of witnesses around him. The yard was alive with energy. Phones captured every angle, whispers echoed, and the story of Bruce Lee's unmatched skill spread like wildfire in real time. This wasn't just a fight. It was a demonstration, a lesson, a shock to the system that would be remembered forever. But the story didn't end there. In the next few seconds, the giant would finally realize who he was facing, and the reaction would leave everyone in awe. The giant staggered slightly, catching himself, but the shift in the yard's energy was undeniable. For the first time, the massive man realized he wasn't just facing a smaller opponent, he was facing a master. Every twitch, every step, every subtle movement Bruce Lee had made in the past 10 seconds had silently conveyed one thing: control, precision, and unmatched skill. The realization hit the giant like a punch harder than any he had thrown. The spectators sensed it instantly. The murmurs grew louder, tinged with awe. "That's Bruce Lee!" "No way, it can't be." Whispers ran through the crowd, phones still recording, as someone finally shouted, "He's the world's greatest martial artist." The word spread like wildfire, and suddenly the attention on Bruce was magnified 100-fold. People who had only been watching casually were now leaning in, caught entirely in the gravity of the moment. The giant froze. The arrogance that had fueled him moments ago now evaporated. He glanced around, noticing how the crowd's whispers shifted from mockery to admiration, how the bystanders' eyes reflected respect and shock. Bruce Lee didn't gloat. He didn't need to. His calm posture, the quiet authority radiating from his every movement, made the giant understand the scale of the lesson he had just been shown. Strength without skill was nothing. Ego without discipline could crumble in seconds. Bruce's eyes met the giant's, steady, unwavering, yet full of quiet challenge. In that gaze, the giant could see the mastery of years of practice, the power of focus and timing, and the serenity that comes from absolute confidence in oneself. The realization was overwhelming. A man who had thought his size and strength made him untouchable now understood that he had been completely outclassed mentally, emotionally, and physically. The crowd erupted. Some cheering, some gasping, some just shaking their heads in disbelief. The giant's friends tried to speak, but words failed them. Even the spectators who had doubted Bruce a moment ago now whispered in awe. He didn't even have to strike hard. He just controlled everything. It was a lesson in humility for everyone watching, a reminder that appearances can deceive, and skill always commands respect. Bruce took a slow, deliberate step forward. He didn't need to say anything. The giant lowered his gaze, almost instinctively bowing his head, a gesture of acknowledgement. The shift in the atmosphere was palpable. What had begun as a challenge fueled by arrogance had transformed into a moment of respect, and the crowd sensed it immediately. The power dynamic had completely flipped. Have you ever witnessed someone stay completely calm under pressure and completely dominate a situation? Share your story in the comments and tell us your city and country. Let's see who has seen true skill in action around the world. Bruce Lee's calm mastery didn't just humble the giant, it inspired the crowd. People realized that strength is meaningless without control and that ego can crumble before focus. The giant, massive and intimidating as he was, had been outmatched by intelligence, skill, and mental discipline. The lesson was clear. Size can intimidate, but precision, timing, and mastery earned true respect. As the giant stepped back, still processing what had happened, the crowd erupted into cheers. Phones were raised, people were shouting, and the whispers of awe grew into collective astonishment. Bruce Lee didn't react. He simply stood there, calm and poised, a living example of discipline and mastery. The giant finally nodded, acknowledging the undeniable truth, and the yard filled with a mix of admiration, disbelief, and inspiration. The moment would live forever in the memories of everyone present. It wasn't just about a fight anymore. It was about the triumph of skill, the power of discipline, and the humbling effect of true mastery. Bruce Lee had shown the world in 10 seconds what it meant to be truly unbeatable, not through force, but through control, focus, and presence. The video of this unbelievable 10-second encounter went viral, and the world could not stop talking about it. The lessons from Bruce Lee's calm mastery spread like wildfire. By the time the giant fully realized what had happened, the crowd was already buzzing with excitement. Phones were held high, recording every second of the encounter, capturing not just Bruce Lee's movements but the profound lesson that had unfolded in those 10 seconds. Videos began circulating instantly, clips shared across social media, each view bringing more awe and disbelief. People couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. The giant, once confident and intimidating, now stood quietly, humbled by Bruce's calm mastery. His size and strength had been no match for focus, precision, and discipline. The crowd, still cheering, had not only witnessed a physical triumph but an emotional and psychological lesson as well. It wasn't just about a fight. It was about control, intelligence, and the power of staying calm under pressure. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, millions of people had seen the footage. Comments poured in from every corner of the globe. Unbelievable. He didn't even need to hit him. This is why Bruce Lee is a legend. People were mentally trapped by the spectacle, replaying the moment over and over, trying to understand how one man could dominate someone 3 times, his size with nothing but skill and calm energy. Even news outlets picked up the story, describing it as a masterclass in martial arts and mental control. Analysts and fans dissected every second of the 10-second encounter, praising Bruce for showing the world that true power comes not from muscle, but from mastery of the mind and body. The giant, meanwhile, had become a symbol of humility, his initial arrogance replaced with awe and respect for Bruce's unparalleled skill. Bruce Lee, as always, remained humble. He didn't gloat or boast. Instead, he used the moment to teach a universal lesson. Strength without discipline is meaningless. And respect is earned through skill and character, not intimidation. His calm presence left a lasting impression on the crowd and anyone watching the footage online. People around the world were inspired, many sharing their own stories of times they had faced overwhelming challenges and found strength in focus rather than brute force. If you believe true power comes from skill, focus, and calm under pressure, type respect in the comments. Tell us your city or country. Let's see who's watching this legendary moment from around the world. The story didn't just entertain, it inspired. Martial artists, athletes, and everyday people alike were drawn to the lesson embedded in Bruce's actions. It wasn't only about defeating a larger opponent. It was about the mind controlling the body, calmness overpowering chaos, and humility triumphing over arrogance. The viral clip became a reference point, a moment people returned to whenever they needed motivation or a reminder that true mastery is silent but undeniable. In the end, the giant left the yard with a newfound respect for Bruce Lee. The crowd dispersed, buzzing with excitement, their lives momentarily transformed by what they had just witnessed. The lesson lingered far beyond the yard. Skill over strength, calm over aggression, and discipline over ego. These were truths that resonated with every person who saw it, and as the world continued to watch, share, and discuss, one thing became crystal clear. Bruce Lee's legacy wasn't just built on fighting ability. It was built on his mind, his control, and the way he could inspire millions in just 10 seconds. If you believe no one should be underestimated, and skill can overcome any challenge, type respect in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more legendary stories like this one.